a new segment called Red Flag, Green Flag, where we pinpoint a trend and ask essentially whether it portends trouble, hope, what's on the horizon. Is it good? Is it bad? We don't know. And I wanted to start off with Unrivaled ratings. So Unrivaled, in its debut this Monday, so they had 4 games. The evening slate averaged 175 viewers. Lunar Owls versus Rose, 179,000. Breeze versus Phantom, 171,000. Now, Unrivaled's opening weekend last year had a viewership of over 300,000 viewers. So, on its face, that is a 40% decline. So, obviously, that feels like a very big deal. To me, when you dig into this a little bit, I think I kind of feel like I need to wait until the weekend ratings come in to really start to worry about this, because Unrivaled opened on a Monday night this year, and the ratings were actually pretty comparable to their first Monday night last season. Last year's Monday night 2-game slate averaged 184K. This year's average 175K. So that's really only a 5% drop off. They started the year early. Also, they started the season early this year because a lot of players have mid-March FIBA commitments. And I think that, that part, I think it caught up to everyone this year. Like I don't think there was as much buildup. NFL playoffs are in full swing. College football is in full swing. It's a first weekend after the holidays. Like, everyone's kind of just going back to work. I don't know that, like, they really had the same sort of, like, pre-season marketing push that they had last year, where everybody was, like, really aware of Unrivaled. I will say earlier start means an earlier finish, which means that the finals won't be colliding with the opening of March Madness like they did last year. So we might see a little bit more of a pickup in the back end.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not necessarily worried about Unrivaled just from the standpoint of, like, hey, these things happen for any league that's going to premiere and then, hey, go into a second season. Where I would get concerned is if, like, hey, you're still having these same numbers around your championship or even for the one-on-one tournament. That's where I would get concerned. But I'm not entirely concerned. If you're in comparable range, that's where, if there was like a steep decline, like a 70 to 80% decline, I'd be like, whoa. But it's a little bit of a yellow flag for me. I'm not totally panicking or anything else like that, because the talent is there. The marketing and stories are there. So it's still early.
The talent is better this year, right? Like, they have, like, kind of a little bit more of, like, that juice with, like, Paige Beckers coming in, Kelsey Mitchell. And I also think the players know how to play 3-on-3 this year. I think the starting to the season last year was frankly a little bit janky, right? Like, everybody's getting used to 3-on-3. The refs weren't as used to officiating it as well. I think the gameplay has actually looked a lot better this year. Like, I mean, and Chelsea Gray is just doing Chelsea Gray things. But I guess, like, the other, like, so I do wonder if, like, people will kind of tune in later down the line. Like, they saw ratings drop off, like, as the season went on. And I think this year we might see a little bit more of a pickup because the quality is better this year, at least in my opinion. I do wonder if CBA negotiations continue to drag and there's a lack of WNBA free agency, especially with Unrivaled last year, like, the way that they sort of owned that buzz. If it hurts Unrivaled that you don't have, like, Brittany Griner on a boat, like, committing to the Atlanta Dream and all that sort of, like, fun stuff that I think kept Unrivaled in the news cycle in a way. And it kind of gets to that point of, like, we always talk, like, is Unrivaled competition? Is it a compliment? It's both. This is one of those aspects where I think it's complementary, and maybe just the lack of, like, WNBA buzz outside of the negotiations is putting a bit of a damper on the season so far.
I would actually say it's probably something that we're not even thinking of, is actually the Angel Reese effect. And I know that people are going to be like, what? But Angel Reese is actually a big draw. Like, whether you love her or whether you're not a fan of her, you're watching her regardless. Like, don't let people lie to you, because they're watching her regardless, right? One of the big draws from last season was to see Angel Reese play and to see her develop over the course of the season.
That's true.
Now, that's a little bit of a bump there because Angel Reese played really, really well. She was one of the reasons that Rose started climbing up the ranks, right? After they started, 1-4, I think, last season. They started climbing up the ranks. They had an undefeated February and then went into March as the second best team in the league. Like that's no coincidence. That was the Angel Reese's production. Plus, she got Defensive Player of the Year. Like that's a little bit of a bump too, and we don't have that this season because she's not playing in Unrivaled. So I think when you have one of those big names, like it was Caitlin Clark's, the Angel Reese's of the world in terms of those big movers and shakers. If you're not going to have Asia Wilson, or you're not going to have any name in that sort of tier in terms of popularity, in terms of draw, yeah, you might take a little bit of a hit there.